various people from the Speaker of the National Assembly should have been going on. But Tijan, just for the benefit of our Wolof listeners too, before we announce the arrival of the President, His Excellency Adama Barrow, perhaps add on to what Alhaji Sadio Barrow has just said.
jërëjëf Sadio Barrow jërëjëf Modou Diallo comme ni ko Sadio waxee rek waaye jamono yi ñu ngi yaakaar ne si lu bañ a yàgg njiiti réew mi His Excellency President Adama Barrow dina yegg si xam naa bu boobaa rek dinañu door ci li nga xam ne daal mooy beneen fànn ci njaal bi nga xam ne jamono ji moo nekk di xew fii ci néegi député yi biir Banjul gis ngeen nag kooku di speaker faaw rek mu dem mun a jël ab taxawaay boo xam ne moom mooy dalal njiiti réew mi pour mu ñëw dugga ci fii nga xamante ne mooy ci néegi député yi jamono yi nag député yi yëpp jël nañu seeni toogu toog nañu di xaarandi comme ni ñu ko waxee rek bu président Barrow duggasee bu boobaa la des ci li nga xam ne mooy njaal bi bu boobaa nag ñu soog cee dugga ndax Modou Diallo waxoon nañu junj na ko ci njëlbeeni ubbite programme bi ne dina am ay kilifa yoo xam ne dinañ fi gaaral kàddu bokk na ci di Speaker of the National Assembly Honorable Mariama Jack Denton kii nga xamante ne moom ab xarit la woon jegewaale ndem si yàlla si Alhaji Dawda Kairaba Jawara di docteur Lamine Marena moom itam dina am ay kàddu yoo xam ne dina ko yëkkati mu doon ay kàddu serde a jëmale ci ki nga xam ne mooy xaritam woon te tey mu génn ci li nga xam ne mooy suñu biir waaye tamit kii nga xam ne moom mooy doomam dina gaaral kàddu jëmale ci waajuram bu góor dinañu déglu tamit kii nga xamante ne moom mooy Omar Diallo OJ Diallo OJ nag ak digganteem ak kii nga xam ne mooy ndem si yàlla si Dawda Jawara boobu daanaka umput kenn ci wàllum politique mu ses ko rek ci wàllum féetee ko li nga xam ne sax mooy doom ñëpp a réeré wuñu mbir boobu moom it tey dina am loo xam ne dina ko sernde si suñu kilifa bu baax bii nga xam ne tey mu ngi tëddam waaye kii nga xamante ne mooy Chief Justice Assane Diallo nga xam ne nag moom sax liggéey na ci nguuri kii nga xam ne mooy Dawda moom itamit dina am ay kàddu yoo xam ne dina ko yëkkati jëmale nag ci ndem si yàlla bi ki nga xam ne nag moom moo koy tëj tey mooy kàddu bi nga xamante ne moom moo war a tukkee ko si njiiti réew mi His Excellency President Adama Barrow ndem si yàlla si nag niw bi dinañu ko génnee fii dem yóbbu ko fi nga xam ne mooy King Fahad bu lii yëpp a jeexee foofu nag si la ñu koy julee bu ñu ko julee ba noppi nag ñu soog ko jébal ki nga xam ne moom mooy boromam ndax ci bu ñu jógee King Fahad dinañu ko delloosi waat fii ci néegi député ndax fii la ñu ko nar a suturaal ndax fii mooy pencum réew mi nga xamante ne fii ba faaw jamono ak bu mun di ñëw dinañu mun a fàttaliku kii nga xam ne mooy His Excellency ndem si yàlla si Dawda kon Modou Diallo président Barrow yegsi na.
Tidiane jërëjëf doguma la mbokk yi fu mu nekk nii His Excellency the President Adama Barrow dressed in a flowing white gown, as you can see on your screens, has just disembarked from his vehicle and is walking into the National Assembly building. The President was received by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Mariam Jack Denton, and other officials of the National Assembly, including the clerk. Now they are walking into the National Assembly building. As you can see on your screens, Alhaji Sadio Barrow, we've now reached the climax of this funeral service here at the National Assembly. And walking just at the head of the President, you can see on your screens is the State Guard Commander, Colonel Turo Jone. And he is also flanked by the Security Services Chiefs. If I am right, you have the Chief of Defense Staff and also the Inspector General of Police. They are flanking the President as he's walking into the National Assembly building. Alhaji Sadio akamunta go saying President Barrow futata National Assembly building jang.
Wala mutonyati MS Diallo science for Liro Sutiata Tongla, His Excellency President Adama Barrow, Apele Speaker National Assembly Mariama Dentin Tata Bendung, Apele Sai Futata Sadauda La Kesoma, President Barrow Fele, Aning Mariama Dentin Memu Speakati, Aning Alpha Kotangulu, Felebe Duakela, Felebe Duala Sadauda, Ala Kesola, Yanyatilingala, Ngalonko Kaduaine, Palautala Siladla Sonai. Afo Nyamen Drong, Colonel Turo Jaune, Commander of the Presidential Guard, aye pare nyame alonka kalsata bake atambita president nyato abe tamala majestically fanang ka itandi ko atelemu nyato koti kantaro bundala president la kordato anim fanang memu chief of defense staff ti kata fo inspector general of police wol babul bana marala anin kantaro bunda nyato kolu ka president dandan kana bi bankola dibite bonla wayni itandi ko nyimu ben sulare mbalti ben kuma balam nyinti bengame alon ka nyontanglem nene man kija nyila ma foloti adum fanan niaja akumayata daji ko anin Kenya me alon ko president president Jawara ay banko muta silome nyama wala atina nyi hinobe lara kan birin kunun ko jiobe kala nyim banko kan birin kunun ko jiobe chupen na banko kan way tandi ko kayra mole mati nema mole mati fanan me alon ko ay nyim banko kanu adum banko mol fana ya kanule kato itandita bile bi ye mo si wosi long nation nabe nyim banko kan abele be mabere ni dibite bungla jang pour ka ila bunya labang di sa daudala adunia je fana kumata ibala ladula kela banko la dibite bungla e be musloni mo be dala lola je me alon ko hani dindul hani mamarungul ni momorungul ni nata isinano janne ye tare ko tara jang ya lonko sa dawda fele larin jang isi hakilo bulandi nyin keba e mune bara nyin banko kan ale o kayenne ada ale o bunya dialal president Barrow dun ta député bungla a fele sayin ay bala siranga di kan la speaker ya dala drong speaker fanan wala bulata nyato pour kana ala chief of protocol ala ji sise fela buloba karola jede sa speaker fele alota ay la dinkrato dame alon konsabo jelemu député bungla mimbaroti lota wolto sayin nyati din jamala ngaji ko amina kumala sayin.
Thank you so much, Alhaji Sadio Baron. Now we'll just take a listen.
Of society and just government of men, we beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor us thy servants, whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in this land. Let thy blessing descend upon us here in this house assembled. Grant us that we may treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner, to promote thy honor and glory, to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of this country and of those whose interests thou hast committed to our church. Amen. Good evening, everybody. Your Excellency. Can we please sit down and await the arrival of the corpse before we start the ceremony proper? Thank you.
That was the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Mariam Jack Denton, opening the prayers here at the National Assembly. And wherever you are, these are live pictures coming to you of the funeral service of the late former President, His Excellency Alhaji Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara. And that's President Barrow sitting just next to the Speaker, Mariam Jack Denton, who will introduce proceedings which I understand involve statements by herself, by Dr. Lamin Marena, and also a close confidant, former close confidant and minister of the late former President, O.J. Jallow, is also delivered a statement, as well as one of the sons of the late former President, Dawda Jawara Jr. We'll also have a statement by the Honorable Chief Justice, His Lordship Hassan Bubakar Jallow. He will also deliver a statement here at the National Assembly. So as we await the Speaker to deliver her statement, we'll just allow you to watch live pictures coming to you here from the National Assembly in Banjul. It is a historic moment for the Gambia, a moment that is unprecedented. That is the first time that a former president has died and will be laid to rest here at the very grounds of the National Assembly. Alhaji Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara was born in Barajali and then grew up, went to school in the village, and later in Banjul, proceeded to Ghana and then the United Kingdom where he graduated. He later worked in the civil service before entering politics in 1960. He contested elections and won and became the Prime Minister and later the President of the Republic of the Gambia. He was a post-colonial president of the country and ruled the country for nearly 3 decades until he was overthrown in 1994. But after his departure from the political scene, he returned back to the Gambia in 2006, where he lived peacefully as an elder statesman, highly respected even by the man who overthrew him. And today here he lies in state, his final resting place, where he will be laid to rest. A series of programs or events are taking place leading to this very event at the King Fahad Mosque in Banjul, where religious leaders have recited the Holy Quran in memory of the late former president. Later, his body was carried by senior ranking officials of the Gambia Armed Forces, the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. Let's take a listen. After his body arrived at the National Assembly, people, including cabinet ministers and other dignitaries, religious leaders, and representatives of international organizations and foreign diplomats all lined up to pay their last respects to the late former president. And this, His Excellency the President Adama Barrow also did when he entered the National Assembly chambers. He took time to pray for the late president as he lay just at the entrance of the National Assembly. And I understand now the officers and men of the Gambia Armed Forces, high-ranking officers, are now carrying the coffin again into the National Assembly chambers itself. These are the widows of the late former president, Lady Chilenjai, and also Lady Njeme, seated earlier, dressed in white gowns. These are the ceremonial mourning gowns of the Muslim religion. There they are seated. The coffin has been carried by officers and men of the Gambia Armed Forces in a very synchronized and somber fashion. Viewers, wherever you are, these are live pictures coming to you from the Gambia Radio and Television Services here at the National Assembly building in Banjul. This is the funeral service of the late former president, His Excellency Alhaji Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara. That's his coffin being carried by senior officers of the Gambia Armed Forces into the National Assembly chamber. Now it is all quiet, very somber and serene inside the National Assembly building itself. Everybody is now quiet in anticipation of the coffin being carried into the chamber itself. This is an event that has united all Gambians from across the political spectrum who have put their political differences aside to pay homage and to pay their respects to the founding father of this great country, His Excellency Alhaji Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara. What a befitting sender for a man who stood to defend the territorial integrity, sovereignty, and viability of this country in very trying times, at a time when indeed even the international community doubted the very existence of this country. But he stood firm, defended the interests of this country, and ensured that it became an independent state in the Committee of Nations. He played a key role in the activities of the Organization of African Unity and also in the founding of the Economic Community of West African States, where he, for 2 times, he served as the chairman of that organization. He was a very peaceful man and mediated conflicts across the continent and beyond. During the Iran-Iraq War in 1980, he led mediation efforts to stop that brutal war that led to the killing of millions of people. He also led to the negotiations for peace in the Republic of Liberia at a time when the warring factions were fighting for political control of that West African country. At home here, he celebrated as an elder statesman, as a charismatic leader who united Gambians to believe in themselves and also to believe in the destiny of this country. He reached out to all his political opponents. He reached out to all his peers to put the interests of this country first and foremost and laid solid foundations for the development of the Gambia. And today we can all be a testimony to these achievements. And today we can also celebrate the achievements of the late former president who stood firm, who worked hard to ensure that the Gambia it became the country that it is today. That's his son, Ibrahim Jawara. And also I can see some other government officials and other high-ranking former civil servants, his peers, some of whom are seated to witness this solemn and somber ceremony. Alhaji Sadio Barrow, we are waiting for the officers to make their way. I understand they have to climb the stairs. And indeed, they have just arrived. That's the coffin draped in the national colors, that is the Gambian flag, being carried by officers and finally, all the dignitaries have stood up as a sign of respect to the late former president. His coffin is now being put down by the soldiers in ceremonial uniforms. Raj Sadio Barrow, this is indeed a very emotional moment for the country.
sojarol melia lon koy manke dindinti sojar kundato wol mo woro wolle sa dawdala keso dunina ya nati fo dunta tabulo ka nyanta lola damin député bu tema me alon ko mo be nyaabe tilita melbe tiliji bulbani mara be temale bebe lorin ka jibe ala university panol me alon ko ay tanu birabe karangala ifele be lala ala fure keso kan wo fana mutaman serleti ko ay londo nyini dinkral mento nyimbe mo buñalti men keda president keba
ashhadu anna muhammadar rasulullah
Dawda Keraba Jawara, please.
ashhadu anna muhammadar rasulullah
Placed on the coffin just some few minutes ago. Now allow the proceedings to start with the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Mariam Jack Denton.
Lamin J. Marena, statement by a family member of the former President DK Jawara Jr., statement by a former cabinet member in the First Republic, Honorable Omar A. Jallo, statement by a member of the National Assembly, Honorable Sidia S. Jata, then statement by the Lord Chief Justice of the Gambia, His Lordship, Justice Hassan B. Jallo, then finally statement by His Excellency Adama Barrow, President of the Republic of the Gambia. May I now have the honor to request the Honorable Speaker to deliver a statement.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Mr. Adama Barrow, President of the Republic of the Gambia, Your Excellency, the First Lady, Madam Fatoumata Barrow, Your Excellencies, Lady Shilel Jawara and Lady Njeri Jawara, my Lord, the Chief Justice of the Gambia and Justices of the Superior Courts, Honorable Members of this August Assembly, Honorable Ministers herein present, thank you. Honorable Ministers and delegation from the Sister Republic of Senegal, members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps, family members and relatives of the late Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara, service chiefs, the Lord Mayors of Banjul and Kanifing Municipality, regional chief executive officers herein present, senior government officials, venerable religious leaders, fellow Gambians, and people of the world, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of the press. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, our gathering here today is indeed a solemn one, for we are convened here not as a sitting of the National Assembly, but we are here to pay our last respects and bid farewell to an icon, our nation's founding. Indeed, father of our nation, His Excellency Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara. I'm sorry. It is indeed a sad moment for every Gambian, as the country has lost a true son and a great statesman. On behalf of the entire honorable members of this August Assembly, and on my own behalf and staff of the National Assembly, I extend our sincere condolences to the family of the former President of the Republic and offer our fervent prayers. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, Gambia has indeed lost a patriot and a humble servant in the person of His Excellency Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara. Whilst our hearts are heavy today, they are equally filled with gratitude, not merely for the years he spent as the first President of the Republic of the Gambia, but for the years he spent in devoted service to the country he loved. From a veterinarian who served in all parts of rural Gambia to leading the Gambia to independence in February 1965. President Sir Dawda Jawara was also a continental symbol, as he was among the founding fathers of the OAU, now the AU, and worked tirelessly for international tolerance, understanding, and peaceful coexistence amongst nations. His services impacted greatly to making the Gambia known amongst nations as a champion of democracy. He was an ardent advocate of fundamental human rights. He was equally great in his character, leading with decency and integrity. Our hearts are heavy with this loss, and we, as representatives of the people, send our prayers to the entire Jawara family as we equally honor his life and the legacy that he has left behind. Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara won the respect of the Gambian with his character, sense of humor, tolerance, and respect for all. Here lies a man who has fought for the independence of this country from colonialism and built it from scratch, despite pressures from colonial masters and, of course, others. But with sound judgment, dignity, and good leadership, President Jawara had proved all critics wrong by guiding our nation to unprecedented development. Given the scope of his achievements and accomplishments, Sir Dawda still remained humble. Gambians and the world at large can recollect that during the years of his presidency, Gambia was governed under an atmosphere of peace, freedom, and dignity, where the rule of law was upheld and respect for human rights was the order of the day. This is no coincidence that at the time of his leadership, or may I say during the time of his leadership, Gambia was chosen to host the headquarters of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. Under his leadership, Gambians enjoyed freedom of expression and assembly without any form of fear or oppression. As we pay our last respects to former President Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara, we dare say thank you to him for all the endless services rendered to this nation that we are all proud of today. President Jawara, during difficult times, had always comforted us to the belief that the best lies ahead for the Gambia. And that is why we are here today to celebrate the new Gambia. Yes, he accomplished so much for the nation that will be remembered by generations yet unborn. President Jawara was indeed a man of God, and despite his work as head of state, he never compromised his religious obligations. In addition to his devotion to Allah and work for his country, President Jawara always found time for his colleagues, friends, and family. For those of us that had the privilege of knowing him outside official engagements, we were and continue to be humbled by his kindness and compassion to everyone around him. He will be greatly missed by every one of us. President Jawara, a caring and beloved statesman, although gone, will never be forgotten in this country, the African continent, and the world at large. To Lady Chilel Jawara, Mama J, you were Papa's best. I'm sorry. You were Papa's best friend, his close partner, and along with his faith, the source of his strength. You and other members of the family knew him as a devoted family man, and he was loved for his integrity, kindness and sense of humor. As a leader of our dear country, at a difficult time in history, it was those qualities that drew a grateful nation to him as well. We can never thank you for sharing him with us. And once again, on behalf of the entire honorable members of this 5th legislature, and indeed on my own behalf, and I would also want at this point to extend the deepest condolences of Lady Jack and family to the family, His Excellency Mr. Adama Barrow, President of the Republic of the Gambia, honorable ministers, the entire government, and people of the Gambia. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive and grant Sir Dawda here inlaid before us the highest place in Jannatul Firdaus. May Allah also grant his family, the children, and the people of the Gambia the fortitude to bear this great loss. Amen. Adieu, Papa J. We'll definitely miss you. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. May I now have the honor to call on Dr. Lamin J. Marina to give a statement on behalf of the family. He is a family friend, actually.
In tribute to the late former president, His Excellency Alhaji Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara, Alhaji Sajo Barrow. It was indeed very emotional, and seeing the speaker.
No, I don't need it. You don't need a light. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين. Your Excellency, Mr. President, Vice President, Cabinet Ministers, Honorable Chief Justice, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Members of the National Assembly, dignitaries present here, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. I would like firstly to thank wholeheartedly the government of the Gambia, the National Assembly, and the Jawara family for this unprecedented honor, allowing me to pay tribute amid grief to late Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara. He was one of the greatest, if not the greatest citizen of the Gambia. Sir Dawda Jawara established essential institutions, including an excellent public service for democracy and human rights and for the political and socio-economic development of our country. By all standards, his achievement was unique. Yet maybe some of what he started could be reformed or revitalized for further national progress. Sir Dawda and I were brought up at Hafdai, Banjul, by the late Pa Yoma Jallow. He had been a brother, a solid family friend, and neighbor for over 70 years. He was exceptionally kind, industrious, honest, and compassionate. He was not greedy and did not enrich himself at his country's expense. He fully demonstrated this combination of good qualities throughout his political career. His impeccable character fitted him well for president. I sincerely thank the late Pa Yoma Jallow and family, especially his son, my brother Senu, for nurturing Sir Dawda Jawara and myself, and for our constant cordial family relations. Finally, I would like to extend heartfelt condolences from my extended family to Sir Dawda Jawara's entire family, especially to his wife, Lady Chilal, and all Sir Dawda's children. May Allah the Almighty forgive Sir Dawda Jawara and grant him paradise in heaven. Amen. Thank you, and may God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Next on the list is a statement by a family member of the former President, Dawda Jawara Jr.
Dawda Jawara Jr., we understand is the son of the late former President, also delivered a statement. Dr. Lamin J. Marina was a family friend, a childhood friend of the late former President.
Madam Speaker, honorable members of the National Assembly, Your Excellency, Mr. President, Your Excellency, the First Lady, Lady Chilal Jawara, Lady Njeme Jawara, Madam Vice President, my Lord Chief Justice, members of the Government of the Gambia, members of the Supreme Islamic Council of the Gambia, members of the Christian Council of the Gambia, members of the Diplomatic Corps, all of the protocols observed, fellow Gambians. I am indeed honored to have this opportunity to say a few words on behalf of Sir Dawda Jawara's family on this solemn occasion. Many today will speak of his great achievements and have already started to do so, but in the few moments that I have, I would like to reflect on the example that he has left for us, his family. My father lived his life to serve as an example to those of us who remain, and this has never been clearer to me than it is today. Every day, our family saw a man that had got to where he was through sheer hard work and discipline. Those close to Papa, as we called him, could not help but learn that there are no shortcuts in life, that you should always act with integrity and honesty, and always concern yourself with the welfare of others before selfish interest. These values that I learned from Papa have stood me in very good stead throughout my life. In fact, I recall having many conversations with my cousin Sankung Fati at a time when we both worked in the public service of the Gambia. Our paramount concern was the need to hold ourselves to the highest possible standards as his son, as his nephew, driven by our desire to follow the old man's example. The rest of our family, and I am sure the wider population, were similarly inspired and guided. Madam Speaker, Papa was fair and even-handed. He would always do his best to resolve disputes, family disputes, without taking sides. One would come away from these situations not only having learnt something new, but more importantly, being able to see the other person's point of view. On a daily basis, our family witnessed his capacity to overlook the shortcomings of others, as well as his extraordinary ability to genuinely forgive. If there was sanction, it was delivered with kindness, and the impact of that sanction was all the greater. Madam Speaker, my father, of course, had his political opponents, but I want to take this opportunity to recognize and acknowledge the significant contribution that they have made to the development of this country in ways that they may not be aware of. My father was always interested in the views and ideas of others, particularly when they were different from his own. Upon any matter being discussed, he would ask, and this is some of those of us familiar with him would know this, he would ask, well, what do you think? And we remember how he would listen attentively and take a note and make a note. Madam Speaker, throughout his long and illustrious life, my father faced many challenges and crises in both his public and private life. The courage and calm with which he faced these situations, founded above all on an unshakable belief in the Almighty, has left an indelible mark on me and on others. At times of stress or difficulty, Papa would be the one to keep everyone at ease, often with well-chosen words of comfort and often with very good humor. Madam Speaker, we, his children and his family, will miss him greatly. There is no doubt about that. We will miss him more than words can adequately express. The abiding question that we, his family, and indeed the generality of Gambians now ask is this: where do we go from here? For us, his successors, the answer is clear. We must be inspired by the life and example of the remarkable man that was Dawda Kairaba Jawara. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all.
Thank you. May I now call Honorable Omar Jallo to make a statement on behalf of the former cabinet ministers. Honorable.
And now we have Omar Amadou Jallo, former agriculture minister and leader of the PPP.
Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, my Lord Speaker, Deputy Speaker, members of the August Assembly of Parliament, Mr. President of the Republic of the Gambia, the First Lady of the Republic of the Gambia, Mr. Chief Justice, honorable ministers, honorable members of the bar and the bench, members of the diplomatic corps and consular corps present here today, venerable religious leaders, the Imam Ratib of Banjul and all imams present here today, and the Supreme Islamic Council members, Mr. Bishop Odeko, and all the members of the Christian Council present here today. The Deputy Mayor of Banjul and the Mayor of the Kanifing Municipal Council, District Chairmen of Divisions, Chiefs and Alkalulus, who are all present here today to witness this historic solemn occasion that is taking place in Gambia's House of Parliament. It is indeed for us as the children of Sir Dawda, who brought us up in the political arena, to stand here today with pride as much as we mourn this great son of Africa, a great son of Gambia, we, as the people whom he groomed, will not only mourn him, but will celebrate his successes and achievements, not nationally alone, but internationally, to promote and protect and uphold the dignity of the human race. Sir Dawda sacrificed his job to lead the People's Progressive Party, when at that time there were only 2 Gambians who were heading departments, Dr. Jones of the Medical and Health and Sir DK Jawara of the Department of Veterinary Science. At that time, in colonial days, there is nothing more big in terms of positions than heading a department. He sacrificed that because a call was made on him by the Gambian people to come and lead a crusade against colonialism, against tyranny, against suppression. He took it up, although he didn't know what was in front of him, but Gambia was worth everything to him. I want to thank the 242 ladies sitting here, Lady Chilel Jawara and Lady Njeme Jawara, and to extend our condolences to the family of Sir DK Jawara, to the families of the Fosters, the families of the Njais, and the families of the Mojen. This is a collective occasion where all Gambians have something to say, to contribute, and be part of this solemn occasion, because Sir Dawda was for the Gambia and for not for one individual or one tribe or one religion. Sir Dawda was a Gambian. He proved it when the initiators and forefathers of the PPP went to him and said they want to form a party and make him to lead it, and it's called the Protectors People's Party. He advised them strongly that the unity and cohesion of Gambia is more important. Therefore, let us have a party that encompasses every Gambian, irrespective of where you come from, which tribe or which religion. And he proposed a new name called the People's Progressive Party. Thank you, Sir Dawda, for making Gambia one united front, one united family. He championed the independence of this country and became our first Prime Minister. Look at the first referendum for us to become a republic. We lost the referendum by less than 500 votes. And the supporters of the PPP called a meeting in Faraba Banta for him to declare a republic. He said no, because we have lost, even if it was one vote, we should not undermine the constitution and legal instruments of this country. And he even said if they want to force him, he was ready to resign, but he will never ever agree to anything that will violate the laws of this country. What a great man. And it was only after the second referendum that he became the president of this country. We are pleased to have here a big delegation, important delegation from Senegal, from Medina Bay, who have come to witness this occasion. We thank you very much for leaving Senegal, coming up to here to witness the burial of the greatest son of Gambia, Sir DK Jawara, who had a very serious relationship that I know with Bainyas. Even when, before he became a politician, as a veterinary doctor, he visits Kaulak and go to Bainyas. And this continued even after. Mr. Speaker, Sadauda realized the importance of Gambia and Senegal. That is why immediately after independence, he sat with Senghor and they signed a declaration and an agreement on education, culture, youth, and defense. And because of that foresight, we were able to be saved from the desperation and treacheries of terror in 1981 when Kukoy Samba Sanyang waged war against the Gambian people. We thank Senegal for their intervention and accepting and respecting the agreement that was initiated by Sadauda Jawara. His achievements, we know, his humility, his openness, his tolerance, and his accommodation, and his ability as president, as leader, to listen and accept advice was one of the biggest and the most successful values that all of us are copying from this great person. Sadauda, we will never forget about your legacy, and we'll live by it, not only talk about it, so that we once again see Gambia to become the peaceful country of the world. When Ahmed Sekou Touré and Senghor were at it order until there was going to be war, nobody sent Sadauda. He got up on his own initiative and go and talk to these two heads of states and bring them together and make sure peace took place between Gambia and Senegal. And for the first time, each of the countries sent diplomatic positions to the other country, thanks to this great person. That he became the president. Occasion of Sadauda.
That was Dauda Kairaba Jawara. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all. That we, his family, and indeed the generality of Gambians, now ask is this: where do we go from here? For us,
that Sadauda should head the team, and through Sadauda's effort, peace was established between Iran and Iraq. ECOWAS, he was one of the initiators. That is why the name ECOWAS emanated from Sadauda and his then Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, I.M. Gaba Jahumpa. And his play and his activities in this community, all Gambians know about it, all Senegalese, and everybody in the sub-region knew about Sadauda's activity to bring about change and development in the west coast of Africa, so that our dependency on foreign aid should stop. We should be able to make sure what he said, to be able to be self-reliant, do things for ourselves. Sadauda makes sure, because of his beliefs in human rights, rule of law, good governance, and the dignity of the humankind, Gambia became the safe haven of all the countries of its region, where there were despots and one-party states. They came, and when they are in Gambia, they are not taken as foreigners, but they are taken as human beings, and their rights are respected. And Gambia became the biggest safe haven of people from the sub-region, running away from despotism, suppression, and violation of their rights. It is there for everybody to see. There are countries that have gold and diamond and oil. Instead of Gambians going there and fighting, they are here with our peanuts, thanks to Sadauda. For 29 years of Sadauda's rule, not one Gambian child crossed the desert to die or the Mediterranean to die. Because of his foresight, he built a cohesive relationship between his government and other governments based on respect for the independence and sovereignty of each and every state and non-interference. And we became a world icon whereby some countries like Norway, Denmark, Sweden, England, no Gambian needs a passport during Sir Dawda's time to go into these countries. Thanks to Sir Dawda. He was a great man. He had nothing to think about but the welfare of the Gambian people. How to uplift each and every Gambian from poverty to whatever you think you should be comfortable with and your family. Therefore, he doesn't tolerate sectionalism. And we have seen, all of us here, his children are here. Sir Dawda has never used his office to promote his family or people who are related to him. All his children went to the same school that we went to. We all play football together without one police officer guiding them. He goes to the supermarket with only one police officer, and Sir Dawda himself will be pushing the trolley when he was president. Therefore, we the Gambians owe it to ourselves and our children and generations unborn to inculcate in them this type of values that Sir Dawda has brought to bear in this country, whereby the whole world sees Gambia as the bastion of peace and stability, democracy and human rights. That is why in 1975, at the OAU conference in Kampala, Sir Dawda proposed that because of the historic dimensions of Africa, being the most dehumanized race of the world, Africa, because of our experience of slavery, our experience of colonialism, should establish a national institutional office for human and people's rights. He was able to convince his colleagues, the heads of states. But when it comes to establishing the headquarters, there was no country that can challenge Gambia for qualifying to have the headquarters today in Gambia. And up to today is in Gambia, thanks to his wisdom. We, as Gambians, have seen that during Sir Dawda's days, agriculture was prospering. We are having strange farmers, what we call surgas, coming to live with our own farmers in the rural areas, and our own farmers feeding them because of the assistance in schools and other assistance he was giving to the farmers, that these farmers from other countries come to live under our farmers. Our farmers were better. That is why in 1993, we were able to buy over 150,000 tons of nuts. But unfortunately, with the change, I was listening to the then Minister of Finance in 2015, that the total tonnage of the Gambia was 35,000 tons, a direct reflection on the poverty and degradation of the farming community. That is why our daughters, our sons are crossing the desert and dying in the ocean. Sir Dawda saw this. That's why he made the facilities so that our children will stay home and be responsible and be proud to be the sons and daughters of their motherland. The same thing happens when Sadauda became president. He established the Post Authority, Gamtel, Social Security and Housing Finance Estate, and the Gum Works, and so many corporations to allow Gambians to uplift our economic possibilities and responsibilities. And these institutions are the biggest employees of this country up to today. And the boss, of course, I forgot the boss corporation. Therefore, I think we should learn from this wisdom of Sadauda. For all the things that he has done. When we are entering Banjul, for example, we are in Banjul, we cannot talk about everything because there is time. During Sadauda built the courthouse. He built the BBC complex. He built this clinic on Independence Drive. He built the children's wing and expanded the maternity wing of the RVH and extended 46 major health centers throughout the country, and not only health centers, but provide them with doctors and medications. That's why WHO chose Gambia as a training spread for Africa for primary health care, thanks to Sadauda's wisdom. I would say we are going to take him to a mosque called Kil Fahad Mosque. I was fortunate that when Sadauda went to Saudi Arabia to ask for assistance to build a big mosque for Banjul, I was in that delegation. Unfortunately, we have a competent ambassador in the person of Dr. Omar Jah. They met the king, and the king made sure he provided King Fahad Mosque in Banjul, thanks to Sadauda Jawara. I can go on and on, but I have seen my friend here looking at me. I am ready to say, I'm happy to say, Mr. President and Madam Speaker, that there are some people here with us who started the struggle with Sadauda. Our Koroke is here, Honorable Kalulu Singate, being in the first cabinet of Sadauda and being part of the delegation in City 2 that went to negotiate for the independence of Gambia. Alaji Asise is sitting here, the first parliamentary secretary to the Prime Minister. And these are the people whom we as young people brought us up through the very values that Sadauda put in them and make sure it is implemented by the day. We have there Sehu Sabali, the former vice president, Bakari Dabo, Bunja Dabo, and we have my first boss, Honorable Lamin Kiti Jabang, the longest serving cabinet minister under Sadauda Jawara. MC Cham is there sitting. And all these people were people who worked with Sadauda as a team, because Sadauda never agreed to suppress or to impose. He was a real democratic leader, and his humility allowed all of us as young people who can be his son to argue with him and make sure we put our points across, and he is never angry, or he will never show anger to anybody who opposes any opinion that Sadauda had. We have Mrs. Farmata Tambajang Jallo. But Mrs. Farmata Jallo Tambajang is here with us, who worked very closely with Sadauda and became a vice president. My colleagues are here, party leaders who have come irrespective of parties. Sadauda, I can attest, sent me on 3 occasions to Sirif Diba when Sirif Diba was a leader of an opposition party. Sent me on 2 occasions to Asamusa Kamara when Asamusa Kamara was an opposition leader, for them to come and answer to him behalf something national issues to discuss with them. All rivers flow to the ocean. Being opposition and being government, we are all supposed to work for one destiny and one country, and that is Gambia. And Gambia's interests come first before anything else. And that Sir Dawda played that role and he respected it. That's why I want us now to continue building that in our younger children, in the younger generation, that we should stop adoring people. We should stop making people God. Sir Dawda has never ever done that. Finally, Madam Speaker, I want to thank and commend Lady DK Jawara. And one person who goes to Sir Dawda's home every other Sunday since he came from the UK, except if I am out of this country, to have breakfast with him. And I've seen how dedicated, how committed, how loyal Lady DK was to this old man. We thank you, we commend you, and we pray for you, for God to bestow you with prayers, and you and the whole family of Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara. You have made us proud. What the Wolof says, demulo sey fa rek dang fa sey won. Kon nak sa bes ñew na pour ñu wax ko te dañ ko wara wax te man dama wara bokk ci ñu ko wara wax, because I am a living witness to your commitment, your tortures, everything, because taking care of an old sick person is difficult. Thank you very much, Lady DK. I thank you all. And we pray that Sir Dawda will be more beneficial going where he is going than he was in Gambia. And our hopes have been uplifted from what we have heard from people. And God pays for something good that is being done by any person. And Sir Dawda have never done anything bad for this country. We pray for him. You are going physically, yes. But spiritually and mentally, you are in us forever, and we'll try to emulate your standards, your values, and your characters, and make sure we don't only work by it, but we put it in the younger generations so that Gambia will be one of the nations to be emulated by all. I thank you all very much. Thank you.
Minister of the late, in the government of the late former President Alhaji Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara. It was indeed a very passionate statement by Omar Amadou Jallow, who has been a very close confidant of the late former president. Omar Amadou Jallow recounted his days with the former president, how he had been a very worthy son of Jawara during those days. Now we listen to Honorable Sidia Jatta, who will also deliver a statement.
Assalamu alaikum. When the head of the table office phoned me yesterday and said I was chosen to speak here, I told him that they were putting a heavy burden on my shoulders. Honorable Speaker, my colleague, members of the National Assembly, Your Excellency the President, Your Excellency the First Lady, Your Excellencies Lady Chilwell and Lady Njeme, Cabinet Ministers, my Lord the Chief Justice, members of the Supreme Islamic Council and the Christian Councils, service chiefs, all other protocols duly observed. Death, every death, is a book that reminds us something fundamental. And that is, death is the ultimate reality of our existence. There are those among us who are mortals, but there are also those among us who are immortal. Mortals come into this world and depart without leaving a trace. Those are those who live almost like animals in this world and go and leave no trace in the world. Immortals are those who stamp the world with their stamp. Some would put it parabolically as leaving indelible footprints on the sands of times. Those are the people who live their lives in the service of others. And if they are believers in God, they live in the service of God. Sir Kairaba Jawara was an immortal. This is not an ungodly language. It means that if you live in this world, if you don't want to die, you have to leave behind you something. There are people who have died centuries ago. They are living more now than those of us who are living, some of us who are living now. I do not need to give you examples. You know all the examples of such people who have perished hundreds of years ago, but they are more living now than those of us, some of us who are living now. Why? Because when they lived their lives in the service of others. They lived their lives in the knowledge that they cannot be anything without others. And since you cannot be nothing without others, then you must live your life in the service of others. So Kairaba lived his life in that fashion. My first memories of him was as a child like this, when he was a veterinary surgeon. When he used to conduct rinderpest campaigns, cattle inoculation regularly. I don't think anybody came who was so effective as Saidaula was. Because in his time,
Sheriff Mamina Haidara, Wole Nata, Sheriff Kunda Betola.
He was doing that effectively. And when he became a politician, it was an honor for him, because truly PPP was not created by him. PPP was created and they looked for a leader. And he was not the only one they turned to. There were others they turned to. Some are living. Some passed away. So that was an honor. He assumed the responsibility to lead that party. A party that I would dare say started badly. One of the members himself pointed to that fact here. It started badly. How? Because of the nomenclature. Party is an instrument of leadership and governance, so it cannot be regionally based or regionally oriented. But we must understand also the historical reasons of People's Protectorate Party. All the elections that took place in this country before 1960 were only concentrated in the capital and its surroundings. It was as if the protectorate never existed, as if you were not people part of this country. So when the party emerged in 1959, nobody should be angry that they call themselves Protectorate People's Party, because they were coming from nowhere. But when he assumed the leadership of the party, the fundamental thought of the party changed, because he knew that a party, a national party, must yearn for national embrace, not regional embrace. And that was his fundamental contribution to solidification of the PPP as a national. The struggle there for a constitutional conference continued. Until 1961, they went for a conference which brought about the 1962 elections. And PPP emerged with the majority of seats. Of course, there was another policy possibility then which does not exist now, crisscrossing the carpet. Many crisscrossed the carpet over to PPP. Naturally, they had the majority and they formed the government. So from then on, we had the PPP in power for some 32 solid years. What we are here today for, not only to pay homage to the man who contributed to the independence of this country, but also to learn from the challenges that he faced as a leader. Nobody would doubt I was small, but I knew he faced difficulties, and he had to weather storms to maintain his position as leader of PPP. I don't need to go into the details of what I mean, but those who are elders here know what I'm saying, what I'm referring to. He faced tremendous challenges for reasons, some of which are customary, traditional, and the rest of it. But what impresses me about this man he's lying here, is his humility, his tolerance. I emphasize his tolerance. That is one thing we must learn from this man. Tolerance. This man would be at a meeting and somebody would virtually insult him. But he would never, ever, he had never, ever asked anybody to arrest him or to do anything to him. He would ask them, leave him to say what he wanted to say. That is tolerance. That is a mark of leadership. People must be free to express themselves, of course, with respect. But you cannot teach people to be respectful unless you are respectful toward them. A leader must respect. A leader must be a model for the others to copy. He was that type of a leader. He was never angry with anybody. I grew up in the midst of these people. When I say these people, I mean the first generation of politicians in this country, by virtue of my relationship to my brother-in-law, who was also among them, Alhaji Musa Dawo. I know all of you. And if he had gone by some of the suggestions that some of you were making to him before, he would have declared this country a one-party state, but he refused. In fact, if he had done so, some of you would not have formed your parties eventually. He was a Democrat. No, he wasn't. I contested him in 1992 as a presidential candidate. You know that. And I had encounters with him. By the way, I'm linked to the Jawara family in many ways. He is a brother-in-law. I'm also a brother-in-law to him. My brother married his sister, and my niece, Lady Chiller, is married to him. Do you know why she is my niece? I was brought up by her grandfather, the father of his mother, Jaja Mariama. She calls me uncle. And my wife was the hairdresser of the president's wife. So you see the link. My wife was his wife's hairdresser for years. And even my niece was also her hairdresser, because I remember one time she came to us in Baka when I was teaching for a hairdo. And of course, the first wife was a friend. We met in a workshop where I had a very serious encounter with one British who was a medical doctor in the hospital who had a racist tint. And I think she was so impressed that eventually we became friends. And also, she was writing a novel whose chapter, at least based on in North Africa, she came to me for discussion. Sadauda also had another passion, sports. People think that the first book he wrote is Kairaba. No. So Kairaba Jawara's first book is on golf. I read that book, small book, but on golf. Golf was his passion. Those of you here who ever played golf with him, there would attest to that fact. But to sum up, what we are here for today, not only to pay homage to this great man, but also to ask ourselves the question, the fundamental question: how are we going to deal with the challenges of nation building, learning from the example of this great man? What have we learned from him? And how are we going to implement what we have learned from him? One of which is tolerance. I emphasize tolerance. To conclude, I pray that Allah reward him abundantly, and I pray that those who survive him live long in good health and in prosperity. And I pray that this nation that he has bequeathed to us, we come together as a collective to address the task of nation building. That unless we are one, and unless we accept the fact that we have to be one, this small country, which is even less than a population of a city, will remain a problem in our hands. So the challenge he has left with us is a challenge of building this country, carrying forward from where he has stopped. I thank you very much for the honor and privilege you have given me to speak here.
His Lordship, Justice Hassan B. Jallow, to make a statement.
Honorable Minister of Justice in the Jawara government.
Your Excellency, Adama Barrow, President of the Republic of the Gambia, and Lady Barrow, Your Excellency, Lady Chilel, Your Excellency, Lady Njeme, Dr. Jawara Jr., and the members of the Jawara family, Madam Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Ministers, Your Lordships of the Superior Courts, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests. 2 days ago, with the passing away of Alhaji Sadauda Kairaba Jawara, the first President of the Republic of the Gambia, our nation lost its founding father, Africa lost its champion for human rights, and the global community lost a great humanist. On behalf of the judiciary, which he respected so much and to which he gave so much, and on my own personal behalf, I would like to extend our deepest condolences to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of the Gambia, to Lady Chilel and to Lady Njeme, and to the Jawara family, to the whole Gambian nation, and those who are abroad, friends and relatives and well-wishers. And I pray that Allah grant him Al-Jannah, that Allah continue to guide and protect his family, and that Allah continues to guide and protect this nation which he loved so much, this nation to which he gave so much. I have had the privilege and the honor indeed of working with Sir Dawda as his Attorney General and as his Minister of Justice for a period of 10 years, precisely from July 1984 to July 1994. In that period, I have come to benefit from his excellent qualities as a statesman, as a leader, and as a great humanist. Sir Dawda is one of two personalities from whom I benefited, with whose interaction I benefited, the other being my late father, Sheikh Alhaji Bukazir Jallow Tijan radiallahu anhu of Bansang, and I regarded both of them as my parents, as my mentors. And I pray that Allah grant both of them Al-Jannah, Al-Firdaus. In the 95 highly productive years of his life, Sir Dawda has achieved important milestones for the Gambia and the wider international community. We all know, of course, that he led the struggle for independence of the Gambia, its liberation from colonialism, and its emergence into independence and sovereign nationhood. As a teenager, I was privileged to witness that ceremony in the evening of 17th February 1965, as a young boy at the McCarthy Square, where I sat in the crowd and saw the Union Jack being lowered and the Gambia national flag being hoisted, and the handover of the instruments of independence by the Duke of Kent, who was representing Her Majesty, the Queen of England, handing it over to the then Prime Minister, Dawda Kairaba Jawara. At that time, many were quite skeptical of the chances of this, what they called improbable nation, surviving as an independent nation, given the challenges we faced in terms of our size, land size, in terms of our size of our population, in terms of the paucity of our resources. But Sir Dawda made us all confident as a nation, and he made us believe in ourselves and in our ability to do so, to survive as an independent nation. 54 years later, that supposedly improbable nation is a firmly established member and a respectable member of the international community. Sir Dawda's confidence and leadership inspired us and indeed enabled us to prove the skeptics wrong in the course of time. We continue, of course, to be a developing country, facing many challenges, like many others. But those who have experienced both the colonial era and the post-independence era, as I have done, and I believe as many also in this gathering have done, will recognize honestly the tremendous progress that the Gambia made in all spheres, in education, in health, in infrastructure, governance, agriculture, the tremendous progress it made, despite its challenges in the period between 1965 and 1994. The record is there for all persons to visit and look at very, very objectively. But Sir Dawda and his government took the country very far from the colonial period, despite the modest means and conditions inherited on 18 February 1965. But it was not only a question of a focus or an emphasis as a state and his successive on the material aspects of the state. Sir Dawda and his successive governments injected a quality of governance into our national fabric which was remarkable and it was rare at the time in Africa. His most significant contribution to this nation did not lie on the material side, important as that is, and also important that there are many achievements in that area as well. At a time when dictatorship, when one party rule, when violations of human rights in the name of national unity and progress seemed to be the order of the day in Africa, Sir Dawda Jawara, almost alone, and perhaps you could count other exceptions, such as Senegal and Botswana at the time, but almost alone, he stood among his peers and stood for a different philosophy and for a different policy of governance. He stood for and made the Gambia known for good governance based on respect for the rule of law, on respect for human rights guaranteed by our Constitution, on the independence of the judiciary, on freedom of assembly and association, on political pluralism, and the holding of regular, free, fair elections. As his Attorney General and Minister of Justice, and from my many interactions with him at both the state and indeed at the party levels, I came to realize that the concepts, the principles of fairness, of justice, of respect for the law, and respect for human rights were personal tenets for Sir Dawda. He did not adhere to them as a matter of political expediency. He deeply believed in them. He believed that development is a comprehensive concept and process that embraces not only material aspects, but particularly all those other aspects of life which maintain and enhance the personal dignity of the human being. He respected the law immensely, and he would not tolerate any breach of it, no breach particularly of the Constitution. As Attorney General, my experience was it would suffice if I told him that would not conform with the law, and that door would be closed. There was no further action on that. He made sure that he respected, and he made sure everybody around him also scrupulously respected the law. But he did not rest on his oars. Throughout his tenure as president, as leader of this country, he continued to explore other ways of strengthening and deepening our governance infrastructure. And this led to many, many local initiatives and important results, such as, for instance, the direct election to the office of the president, which was not the case on the predecessor of this National Assembly, used to be responsible for electing the president. Sir Dawda felt, no, the people of the country need to be given a voice directly to decide that important issue. And hence, so the Constitution was changed, and then from 1982, the people at the grassroots level were empowered to choose their leader, as it should be. That was one of his initiatives. He took other initiatives, for instance, perhaps now some of us may not remember, but prisoners at Mile 2 used to be bound with leg irons and with handcuffs. And Sir Dawda found that absolutely intolerable. He gave a written order that henceforth those practices were to stop, they were to cease, because he believed they were inhumane and in violation of the fundamental rights of prisoners. Unfortunately, I'm afraid some years after his departure, the practice resurfaced. We have to be on our guard, all of us, to make sure that those practices do not continue, because they offend really the principles of respect for human rights. His concern for fairness and justice and humane treatment also led to the important decision he made in the early 90s, leading to the abolition of the death penalty in this country. That was a remarkable step because he believed the death penalty constituted cruel, inhumane, and unfair and unjust treatment. And unfortunately, we've seen some regression in that respect, but fortunately we have come back to Sir Dawda's viewpoint with the decision by His Excellency President's government that the death penalty will be abolished and not applied anymore. The attempted coup d'etat of 1981, which resulted in widespread violence, in a number of deaths and extensive damage and destruction of property, required the declaration of a state of emergency, as a result of which, for instance, many people were detained. They were processed through review tribunals. Some were prosecuted, some were acquitted, some were convicted. Despite the fact that this was a state of emergency, Sadauda was strict in ensuring, in requiring, that all those involved in the process should adhere to the rules of law, that everything that was done should conform with the highest international standards on human rights. And I'm pleased to remind you, the National Assembly, that at the end of the day, even Amnesty International was able to certify that the arrests and the detentions and the trials of all those relating to the 1981 attempt were carried out in accordance with the international human rights standards that were recognized by the international community. He would not accept, because there was a state of emergency, he would not accept that the standards of fair trial, standards for treatment of prisoners or detainees should be deviated from. He did not regard that as an acceptable excuse, and he insisted that the standards ought to be maintained. The establishment of the Ombudsman was another one. We can have a long list. We cannot finish the list today because of time constraints. But and one area he was concerned with also inherited on 18 February 1965. But it was not only a question of a focus or an emphasis as a state and his successive on the material aspects of the state. Sadauda and his successive governments injected a quality of governance into our national fabric, which was remarkable and it was rare at the time in Africa. His most significant contribution to this nation did not lie on the material side, important as that is, and also important that there are many achievements in that area as well. At a time when alone, and perhaps you could count other exceptions, such as Senegal and Botswana at the time, but almost alone, he stood among his peers and stood for a different philosophy and for a different policy of governance. He stood for and made the Gambia known for good governance based on respect for the rule of law, on respect for human rights guaranteed by our Constitution, on the independence of the judiciary, on freedom of assembly and association, on political pluralism, and the holding of regular, free, fair elections. As his Attorney General and Minister of Justice, and from my many interactions with him at both the state and indeed at the party levels, I came to realize that the concepts, the principles of fairness, of justice, of respect for the law, and respect for human rights were personal tenets for Sadauda. He did not adhere to them as a matter of political expediency. He deeply believed in them. He believed that development is a comprehensive concept and process that embraces not only material aspects, but particularly all those other aspects of life which maintain and enhance the personal dignity, the dignity of the human being. He respected the law immensely, and he would not tolerate any breach of it, no breach particularly of the Constitution. As Attorney General, my experience was it would suffice if I told him that would not conform with the law, and that door would be closed. There was no further action on that. He made sure that he respected, and he made sure everybody around him also scrupulously respected the law. But he did not rest on his oars. Throughout his tenure as president, as leader of this country, he continued to explore other ways of strengthening and deepening our governance infrastructure. And this led to many, many local initiatives and important results, such as, for instance, the direct election to the office of the president, which was not the case on the predecessor of this National Assembly used to be responsible for electing the president. So I would have felt, no, the people of the country need to be given a voice directly to decide that important issue. And hence, so the Constitution was changed. And then from 1982, the people at the grassroots level were empowered to choose their leader, as it should be. That was one of his initiatives. He took other initiatives, for instance, perhaps now some of us may not remember, but prisoners at Mile 2 used to be bound with leg irons and with handcuffs, and Sadauda found that absolutely intolerable. He gave a written order that henceforth those practices were to stop, they were to cease, because he believed they were of the country. It was a conscious effort on his part always to make sure that that very high instrument of governance reflected the country itself. I saw this also in his interaction with people. He interacted very well with people of all sections, all tribes, all sections, all levels, all religions. And I saw this in the trust and the confidence that they had in him. Eventually, each of us comes from a tribe. But eventually, Sadauda really became a tribeless person. He became a tribeless person. He was a Gambian, a true nationalist, one who rose above tribe, one who rose above religion, and one who rose above section. I remember him for many other things, for his great intellect, for his punctuality. And this is something we need to emulate together with all. During one particular Ramadan, he had given me an assignment to
ñoso solal ale mankuto kala mo fulate ñoso sola minna wala mo limaniya mankuto Jawara ning adama dingo banta wotole ala kullole ka wanyari moye ala kullodo wanyari nye akonye imam kayna ma akonye ala la mo fele lare